trials, exert, counters, monuments, cycling. And that's just the tip of the pyramid. Amonkhet is full of awesome.
Oketra the True is Amonkhet's white-aligned, cat-headed god of solidarity. She oversees the training of all of these initiates. People in Amonkhet train their entire lives for the trials, and she sees them through this first stage of their lives, helping them to be ready for the tests to come.
One of the things is we definitely played around with Indestructible again, because we did Indestructible in the Gods and Theros. We had a little sneaky thing here, which was we were using -1/-1 counters, which actually are a good answer to indestructibility. So we actually sort of did indestructibility knowing that the environment we were doing, it was a little easier to deal with them than normal.
When we were deciding our lineup of gods here, we knew that we wanted to draw from the notion of animal-headed gods. And so Kefnet, just like Oketra was a cat-headed god, Kefnet is an ibis-headed god. And Kefnet the Mindful is the god of knowledge. He is the curator of information on Amonkhet. And he draws power from the Luxa River. And with that power, he's able to bolster the protection effects of this barrier called the Hekma that keeps the entire city safe from the horrors of the outside world.
Bantu the Glorified is the black-aligned, crocodile-headed god of ambition. Up to the point where they reach the Trial of Ambition, the initiates have all been moving through the process in these groups called crops. Once they reach the Trial of Ambition, they go in as a crop, but this is where they're forced to turn on one another. Bantu's job is to test that they are loyal to their own glory and to the god Pharaoh, not to one another.
Renus the Indomitable is the snake-headed god of strength, and the idea that snakes are basically all muscle, and we thought that was an interesting way to bring a different kind of take on the god of strength. And so Ronas is the one that believes that in order to get to the afterlife, you have to be able to endure the trials to get there. And the mind has to be ready. Your spirit has to be filled with zeal, but your body also has to be physically strong.
Hazaret the Fervent is the red-aligned, jackal-headed god of zeal. She oversees the final trial. As the initiates fight their way to the top, the very worthiest meet her in person. She takes her two-pronged spear, which kind of looks like Bolas's horns, and stabs them, one prong through the head and one through the heart, guaranteeing them a spot in the afterlife beside the god Pharaoh.
Early in the design, the structure of the set was very undefined. We needed some sort of element to use as a scaffolding to kind of bring it all together. In Ravnica, you have the 10 guilds, and they provide a huge amount of structure. We wanted a little something similar here to kind of hang everything off of. So we decided that there would be 5 gods, 5 monuments, 5 trials where the worthy are judged, and 5 cartouches, which is the sort of medal that you get when you have overcome a trial. And we wanted all of the trials and cartouches and monuments and gods of one color to suggest a certain strategy and to play together in a satisfying way. And in fact, the trials and the cartouches have an explicit mechanical interaction where one of them allows you to reuse the other one.
As someone who's been playing the game a long time, little quests for draft, like trials and cartouches, are the kind of things that make me excited to draft the set over and over again. I just want to try and, in all the color combinations, combine all the different cartouches and trials to see what kind of amazing value I can get.
Very first day, we wrote a list on the board. One of the things we wrote down was monuments. Because if you think of Egypt, you think of, of pyramids and the Sphinx, and they spent a lot of time building things. And so one of the things we had to figure out is, how do we capture that aspect of it? Remember, we were sunny Egypt, not dusty ancient Egypt, we were sunny Egypt. And so this is not you finding things that have since broken down, this is you watching things being built. And so we wanted to figure out some way to represent this idea of building. We wanted to capture all the different aspects of Egypt, and hey, building the pyramids, building the monuments, building those things we thought was important. So we made some cards, we made a cycle or two to sort of match that feel.
So there's kind of 2 types of monuments that exist in this set. There's the big, grand spectacles of the monuments to the gods that were very much from this place that they were from a creative place in our storytelling of where these trials take place. Then there were the monuments that were trying to capture the much more tropey ancient Egypt concept of monuments that you build as a player, where you're adding on these counters until they are finally done, and they are beautiful and perfect, and you get to build your own pyramid or whatever it is.
It's one of my favorite things about Magic is the idea that it's not just a black and white world, a system of good versus evil. And so when you have to think about entire systems and belief systems that have a game function of reflecting the colors of Magic, it really forces the creative team to do just that, to get creative about what does this mean for green, what does this mean for blue, what does this mean for red, what does this mean in the context of a city built to do this thing. I mean, I have a history background, so this is my favorite part of the whole process. My favorite part of the job is creating not just belief systems, but social constructs that feel real.
One of the first decisions we made, actually, in Amonkhet was to use -1/-1 counters. Now, those people that know that we only use 1 counter per block, that we want, if there's a creature with a counter on it, we want you to be able to figure out what it is. And so normally that's a +1/+1 counter. But we wanted to do a world that was kind of, look, it's Bolus's world. It's a harsh, rough world, where we feel like -1 counters did a really good job of getting that feel.
-1/-1 counters came from sort of the notion that this is a world where life is very hard, and it is very much, Bolas's home world has this cruelty to it that -1/-1 counters tend to sort of engender, where things are getting pulled down more often than they're getting pumped up. And mechanically, it is very different because there's so much temptation to make designs that add on those counters, make things a little bit better. And you have this world where the rules for us designing it become very different. Because no, it is about knocking your opponent's stuff down instead.
In Magic, combat naturally favors the defender. Defenders can wait to see what the attacker is doing before they make their blocks, they can double block, they have all these natural advantages. So it's always great to see mechanics that help you out specifically when you're attacking. Exert naturally helps you make attacks that get through tough blocking situations to keep attacking even when the opponent has their guard up.
The Exert mechanic in many ways was trying to fulfill a role of helping you continue to progress during a game in terms of combat. Whether it's constructed or limited, often there are situations where it's like, yeah, you have a bigger creature than me, I can't attack again next turn. Exert's mostly situated to try to let you feel like you can still make smart attacks. Sometimes that's just making your creature big enough to attack, and then the drawback to that is that you don't get to untap that creature on the next turn unless you have some silly trick, which we've given you some of. But it's really letting you, it's not trying to complicate the decisions that you're making each turn. It's just, well, I wouldn't have been able to attack, now I can't attack. I feel good about this, or sometimes it's like exert, draw a card. So, well, even if you're killing off my creature, I'm gonna get a card out of this. Maybe I'll draw something else that is gonna help me out of this situation.
So the player has to decide: is now the right time to exert, knowing that they're going to have to wait a full turn before they get to revisit that choice or not. So it's a big decision, and deciding if you want to exert your creatures all on the same turn or on alternating turns. It creates a lot of different gameplay opportunities.
The one I played the most was Combat Celebrant. But the interesting thing about that is the card, even though it didn't change, had, during development, 4 different names. And so the card mechanics stayed exactly the same, but you had 4 different names but that's not unusual. Creative oftentimes iterates a lot in terms of coming up with different names to evoke the flavor of the set. But it's interesting that you have one of the more powerful Exert guys, the 4/1 Exert, Attack Again, Relentless Assault guy, to be exactly what he was from the beginning of development to all the way to the end.
So one of the big things is coming off of Kaladesh. Kaladesh had a very particular feel. It was very, you're an inventor, and we made things go together, and it was very orderly. So one of the things is the pendulum is swinging. Now in Amonkhet, there's lots of different places to go. They're not all interconnected, you know. It's connected by feel, not by sort of, you know, natural synergy. And so we had a lot of different places to explore. And one of the things about Amonkhet is, you know, we're doing mummies and we're doing monuments and we're doing gods and we're doing deserts and we're hitting all these different things you expect that are going in all sorts of different places. But one of the neat things about it is it just is a very different experience. You know, you're going to get to explore the world of Amonkhet much like the Gatewatch. When they show up, there's just a million different things here, a million different ways to go. You get to explore all of them.